Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Aaron. Met a few of you already. I'm the business development manager here at TDengine. I'm going to be the moderator. We have Arun. He's going to be our solutions architect, and he's going to be running the workshop. We're both based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. So the agenda will be a short introduction of TDengine. We'll get right into the workshop after. At the end, we'll leave some time for questions. We also want this to be like an interactive session, so feel free to stop, ask questions along the way, or drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. And then today we'll just be covering how to calculate and visualize OEE, detect anomalies with AI, and then get to root cause faster. So with that, I'll hand it over to Arun, who will run the rest of the workshop.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you, Aaron, for that. Before I kind of go through everything about TDengine, please make sure you guys click on that link in the QA if you haven't done so to set everything up, because this workshop does assume a few things. It does assume that you have TDengine Historian deployed on a Docker instance, and obviously there's a couple requirements for that. So if you guys have the time, please go ahead and hop into the link and go ahead and set everything up, and it'll make life a ton easier for you, so you're not missing the interactive part of the workshop, and just overall make it much smoother for you to get started. So that link is in the chat. Aaron, if anyone's got questions in the chat, is more than happy to answer. And yeah, please feel free to ask questions. Cool. Let's go ahead and get things started. Okay. Going through it, here's a few fun facts about TDengine. We were founded in 2017. We have 24,000 stars on GitHub and almost 1 million installations worldwide so far, in 70 different countries, and over 1,000 paid customers, and mainly in that utilities, manufacturing, and automobile space. So that's usually where we live, and we've got employees both in North America and Asia. So we're around 120 of us, and most of us are developers. So we're a very engineering heavy company. Here's some of those names that you might notice. Some of the big players like McDonald's, Siemens, CATL, which is one of the largest battery manufacturers in the entire world, GE, Novatos, Mingyang. These are some of the big players that use TDengine on a daily basis and are very happy with us. So that's kind of some background on us and our customers. Now going straight to the actual core product. There's a couple of things, right? So we connect to those industrial protocols like OPC, UA, MQTT, and we consolidate that data and store it in our time series database, right? From there, you can run stream processing, advanced analysis, and even do forecasting with machine learning models through our TDGPT. That's the backbone of our product. And then what we're going to be working on today is the cataloging, the standardization, and contextualization of that data, and using agentic AI to derive even better insights, right? And making things that were harder to access before much easier. And that's kind of what you'll be seeing today. Some of the use cases for AI within IDMP, and then how you can use it to derive more OEE. I've noticed a few more people joining. Looks like a lot more people actually joined. Please, go into that chat and get started with the pre-deployment of the OEE webinar. It'll just make life a lot easier for you. Okay, another thing about us is we use the agentic AI to build a lot of the things that you see here. So panels, reports, analysis, events, notifications, all of these can have some sort of connection to some AI, which I will show you in a very quick demo before we hop into it. Over here, you'll notice that we also publish some of your data, right? So you can publish your data and treat TDengine as an MQTT broker. You can also connect us to third-party tools like Grafana, Tableau, Spark, and Power BI. And then now you can use an MCP agent on top of IDMP or TSDB. So if you wanted to, use some kind of MCP, that is also available. We have support for languages for like C#, C++, Java, Rust, Node, Go, Python, all sorts of programming languages. So we're a very open ecosystem. We're not locking you in anywhere, and we give you a lot of variety in what you guys can do. And here's kind of, more on those connectors, what exactly we connect to. You can even pull data straight out of the Pi system, if that's something that's interesting to you guys. And then our language compatibility allows a ton of people to use this tool. Now, I'm going to switch to the demo of the actual platform so you guys can see what exactly we'll be playing around with today. And if there are any questions, please go ahead and stop me and go ahead and ask those questions. A really quick demo, and then we'll hop into the OEE workshop part of it. All right. So let's remove the slides from the screen. And let's go ahead and add my screen. And then once again, really quickly before I hop into the IDMP portion of it, I strongly encourage everyone to deploy. And it's just going to make your life a lot easier when we actually do the webinar in general. All of this stuff is things that you guys should be doing right now. So when I actually hop into it, you don't need to spend much time actually doing any of this. So I go ahead and give that a try. But let's go ahead and look at IDMP. This is kind of what IDMP looks like. I'll go over a couple of our AI features, and then we'll hop straight into the workshop. So I'm going to go over a steel plant scenario, and here we've got a couple cool features that you can do right off the rip, right? So you're looking at an elements tree on the left here. For a specific element, I can do things like, just check its path, check the template. One thing about our system is pretty much everything is templatized. So what does that mean? In simple terms, if you make something once, you can make it 100 times really easily. So for example, this is a down coiler within a steel plant system. And what this allows me to do is recreate this element with little to no issues. And one of the things that I can do with that template is, give the same element, created insight, like a panel, to all of the other elements on the same level. So it's really easy to recreate things within our system. Now we have a section called related documents. This is where you can add internal documentation, links to your company's documentation for each element, or like a maintenance manual, things that just give context for each element you can add here. And it's just a great way to give each individualized element hyper-specific context. And a lot of people use it to kind of drive their AI operations, the back end of it, because AI is only as good as the context that it has. And the more of this that you give it, the better your results are going to be. Now, going into attributes, you can see that we have two types of attributes, one being timestamp data right over here that you'll see. And it's obviously stamped with a timestamp. I can refresh to continue to see new data coming in. And one of the things that we also have are non-timestamp data, which we call these tags, and these are the metrics that never change, right? And you guys will be playing around with how to map this within IDMP in the actual webinar. Okay, so what can you actually do with the data? And I'll go into maybe another element that I know a little bit better, but here you'll see in the panel section, you'll see where we actually use AI and what like that kind of use case is for AI. So here I've got a couple templates. We call this zero query intelligence, and we want essentially anybody to be able to make panels and create insights almost instantaneously, right? So how we do that is we use AI to generate these templates. I can like one kind of template or dislike one to see less of another kind. It's almost like a For You page for industrial data. when I'm ready, I can just kind of, generate the template that I want to, and then AI is just going to make my insights for me. Oh, this is not a great one. Let's pick this one instead, actually. And it's just going to generate based on the data I do have. So if you give it a second here, there you go. It just generates a panel for me. And one of the things I can do with this panel is I can, obviously run some advanced data analytic features on it, like regression analysis, data aggregation. I can annotate on top of it. And I can even get insights, which we'll go over more in the actual webinar. But we use AI to generate all these different panels. And then once you have a couple panels, you can actually throw them up on a dashboard. And this is what a dashboard would look like. I can, use this dashboard with a ton of historical data if I wanted to. I can add like an auto refresh interval. I can share this as a link. So if you guys want to embed these dashboards in your website, I could do that too. And there's a couple of different kind of dashboards. Obviously, you can templatize your dashboard, and that's something that we support right out of the rip. And then you can also send these as reports. So if you want to send these dashboards as reports, I can do that as well. Now we do analysis really, really well, which I'll go over in the OEE section. But that is essentially an overview of our platform, what we kind of look like, what it's like to touch and feel the actual platform. And if you guys have any questions about that, go ahead and message that in the chat. But for now, we're going to move on to the actual webinar. And again, I'm going to give us 5 minutes before we start the actual webinar to deploy TDengine Historian. But essentially, in this workshop, we are going to walk through how manufacturers can move beyond just simply monitoring the OEE by identifying things like performance losses, and then begin using that data for real type of root cause analysis. And one of the things that we're going to do is most of the manufacturers already have some kind of dashboard or some kind of data coming in for OEE, but what they don't have is a way to break down all of this. And the way we're going to do it is through our advanced analytics and through our AI assisted analysis, where we'll turn those insights into actual operational actions. Like, what is the next step that we can kind of take? So here's where I'm going to pause, and I'm going to give you guys around 5 minutes to kind of hop into TDengine Historian and then start to spin some of this stuff up. So let's give you guys a quick second here to kind of get this part started. When you are done with this, if you guys could give me a thumbs up, that would be amazing. So I know who's done, or maybe just put it in the chat. If you can just put in the chat that, hey, I'm already set up and ready to go, I will get us started. So we're going to give you a little bit here, and yeah, feel free to ping us with questions at this point, and kind of get everything going. But we're going to give you a couple seconds here to kind of get this started. And of course, all of this will be recorded, so don't feel a lot of pressure to, we'd love for you to join, but if for some reason it's not working for you right now, we will have this, recorded as well, so we can send you that as well. So we're just going to give it another 2 minutes here, kind of let you guys, get this started. A couple things to remember: you're going to want to have Git installed on your system. It's just going to make life easier when you're deploying something from a Docker file. And then you also want to have Docker Desktop installed, just so you can see your running containers. So yeah, I'm fairly confident that everyone can get this deployed within 5 minutes, but the setup itself will take a little longer. Yeah, again, if you are done with it, please go ahead and message the chat and let us know that you are done with the installation. And we'll just give it another minute here just to make sure everybody is set up and ready to go. Yeah, just super exciting stuff to get this up and running. Okay, so I'm going to assume everyone has sort of deployed their Docker instance. Now, go ahead and log in with that email address. Make sure that you guys are using localhost 6042, and log in with your email and enter your information. It should send you some kind of confirmation code. But once that's up and running, I would pick one of these sample scenarios over here. It's not going to be used for us, but it is definitely helpful if you want to play with things, and you can always unload and load sample data whenever you want. Okay, so now you should see a screen that looks something like let's see, that looks something a little bit like this. And what you should be seeing is, some kind of asset tree. If for some instance you're not seeing that sort of, if you're not seeing that kind of tree, please let me know. If you're not seeing this, this kind of tree, or there's some issue, just let us know, and we're more than willing to take a look at that. But for now, you should see something like this, right? And this is just, the Explore page. It's got your elements tree over here. And what you're actually going to want to do at first is click the admin console. This is where you'll ingest your data. Okay, is everyone at the admin console section? If you are, just go ahead and let me know in some kind of way. If you can't find the admin console, then also let me know. But once you're at the admin console, you're going to want to go into data in and then pick TDengine. And I have a couple already running. For you guys, it should look a little different, right? So it should look a little different, but this is what that interface should kind of look like. And you can configure things like an agent or data collection agents. But right here is where you're going to be pulling that data in. And one of the things that I like to do is to go ahead and in my OEE workshop page, it shows you exactly how to get started. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you have a database configured. And what you want to do is first create a new task, right? And you guys will see a blank task like this, and I'll call this example. For me, this is gonna be an MQTT data source. So I'm gonna go pick MQTT. And one of the things is we don't need an agent. This is completely open. And you can pick a database if you already have one, or you can make a database, right? Here, don't change anything. Just, call it something. I'm just gonna call it example for the workshop, but you guys can go ahead and pick a database, right? Cool. Let me know when you guys have created that database, but I'm just gonna use my workshop database over here. But when you've created that database, let me know. Awesome. Once that database is created, Aaron, do you mind pasting in the MQTT host, which is just mqtt@tdengine.com. Aaron is going to put that in the chat so you guys can easily copy and paste the actual database. But that is just going to be what you guys are going to connect to. It's our very own MQTT broker, and it's just mqtt@tdengine.com.
Okay, yeah, just put it in the chat.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, you guys can hook up to our broker through mqtt@tdengine.com, and it's just going to contain all your data points. Now, once you've got all of that set up, you're going to want to go and you can configure things like the protocol version, obviously the client ID, which has to be unique. So not like everybody is not connecting to the same single instance of that broker, but this is already going to be filled out for you. All of this stuff is completely fine to leave blank. Sometimes brokers got an authentication configuration. For us, we don't really need to worry too much about that. The next thing is that you want to find the topic that you are actually going to subscribe to. For me, it's going to be this uh, in the collect section. We go over the topic. So right on that workshop page, there is a collect section. So I'm going to paste that for you guys actually, but this is just the topic config, right? So here, I'm going to go ahead and paste it. And now you should have all of these fields filled out. So once that's done, if you check the connection, it should say your data source is reachable. I am going to give you guys a couple minutes to get to this point. And if you follow the workshop exactly, it should be completely fine, right? So if there are any issues, just go ahead and let me know. But we're going to give you guys another 2 minutes to get to this, your data source is reachable point. All right, so we're gonna give it another minute here just to make sure you guys are fully ready to go. But if that is all, let us continue through this. Okay, so the connection should be set. Next, we're gonna retrieve uh, a sample payload, and this is a very simple sample payload that should pop in. If it doesn't pop in, I would check if you pasted this right, or if your client ID for some reason isn't filled in, and I'd let you. But it should populate 5 batches of sample data in this payload. And what you want to do is click search, so you can view the parse results, and I can full screen the parse results to see, hey, this is the exact data that's coming in. This is constant data that's flowing. I can filter. So if I want to parse this JSON in some kind of way, maybe I don't want to see a certain key, I can do that. But once you get to this point, you want to click create super table. And it'll just populate all of this for you. But once you are here, go ahead and give you guys a couple minutes to get to this actual point, right? And so we've retrieved from the data source and then created the super table. Let's give you a little bit to get here. Looks like people are following along. It's great to have people in today. Let's see. So we have created that super table. I'm going to call mine OEE workshop, but you guys can, give it whatever, name you want. Next, what we're going to do is define the first column. We're just going to name it timestamp, and we have a duplicate here. So we're going to get rid of the duplicates. And I'm actually going to click this right over here on all of the things that say varchar, right? So move all of the varchar columns to tags. So the site, switch to a tag, building, switch to a tag, suite, switch to a tag, line ID, switch to a tag, a path, switch to a tag, batch ID, switch to a tag, product code, switch to a tag, shift ID, switch to a tag, line mode, shift to a tag, and then state reasons, shift to a tag. What tags are they are the, what is it called? They are the, static metrics, things that never change, right? Like the site of this particular pharma scenario is never going to change. The, batch ID will never change, but all of the other metrics are timestamp data. So these will all be timestamped, and we call these tags, and we call these metrics for the constantly flowing in timestamp data. But once you get to this point, you can just go ahead and click create, and you will notice that the table is fully made. Let me know when you guys are at this point. So we're going to give you a couple more minutes to get to that point. You'll notice that everything is pretty much filled out besides the subtable name, and we're actually going to define the subtable name ourselves. Aaron, if you could paste the subtable name into the chat. Now, a couple things to keep in mind is sometimes, like here, it creates a default tag, so you want to remove any empty tags, right? So just so that you don't have any issues when you're adding some of these. So when I switch a bunch of these to tag, and let me remove this, I want to make sure that everything is there, right? I don't want any empty tags. So make sure you guys don't have an empty tag. Make sure that everything is filled out and is completely and totally ready to go. Let's see. It looks like Aaron will copy that subtable name for you guys and throw that into the chat whenever he's ready. Let's give him a couple seconds to do that, and we'll give you guys a couple more minutes to kind of get that part going.
1 second.
Of course. And guys, if you have questions, please ask. Yeah.
Okay. Just put it in the chat, yeah.
Yep, Aaron just put that in the chat. But what you're essentially going to want to do is go ahead and select the line ID. Just type that out, say line ID, and then click search. And you should see the subtable names start to populate. We have multiple field lines. So this is a pharmaceutical scenario. We have a ton of different field lines. And this is just going to help build our asset modeling structure and make our contextualization that much more richer. But once that line ID is in and you see all of the subtable names like I've seen over here, and you can see the different timestamps, go through, make sure that you don't have any of those empty tags, and go ahead and just hit submit. And once I hit submit, I'm not going to do that because I already have this set up. But if I was to view, this is kind of what that would look like. And once it submits, you should see that it says MQTT workshop and that the status is running. Like you should see those three things kind of, looking at you. So once that is actually running, we are going to import this data into IDMP, but I will give you another minute to confirm that it is running. Okay, so that is, to me, everything is running. So I'm going to go to connections, go to TDengine, and you're going to find that easy import. I've already built mine. You should see the option to build. And we're going to pick that database that you guys stored stuff into. For me, it's going to be Workshop, but it is really going to be, whichever one you pick. So right here, you should see all of the different, I have 2 different super tables. You should only have 1, but go ahead and go into that section. If there's any questions, please let us know. Okay, let's continue. Now, one of the things that is super important is to pick the path. So we've already defined a path here, but if you didn't, you would want to pick something that all the other attributes are going to follow on that path. And here we have a path. So let's go ahead and pick this one as your path. And then you're going to want to fill out a couple different things, right? So you can actually change. Oh, oops. You don't really have to fill anything out. It should just fill out for you, but you can rename this, right? So you can rename this to like OEE workshop. I'm just going to call mine OEE, but just call it whatever you like, right? So I can call it something like OEE, OEE, or you can call it workshop, whatever you guys want to name it, and it will create a tree for you based off of that. I'm just going to call mine workshop, and then this is just going to be my path. And once it's ready to go, just uncheck the ignore. So make sure that this is the only database picked. For me, I have a ton of other databases actually, so I'm just going to ignore all of those. So what you should see is just one is selected. And if you have more super tables, more should be ignored. But once that is done, you just go ahead and click finish, and it will start to import that asset data, and you should start to see your super table start to populate. And when I go back to the explore page and I go to my workshop, this is what we're expecting, right? So 4 different fill lines, and obviously the name of this can be customized, but right now I have my workshop with one building and a suite of different fill lines, and within those obviously the fill line element. So we are going to give you a couple minutes to get to that point, but let's see, how do we get to that point? And let's go ahead and show the data coming in. So to confirm your data is flowing, you want to check the attributes section right over here. And you'll notice that it aligns with the time that's coming in right now because the data is fairly new. Now, you are going to want to make your way to the initial investigation. We're going to do it at the panels, right? And what I want to do is kind of give it a couple minutes to let the data flow in, so that you guys actually have some data within your TSDB that you can analyze. Ideally, you would want this to kind of keep going for a couple of days so that this is already built. But once you have that sort of ready to go, I would paste the show OEE as a line chart, and I would do this for the past, let's say 15 minutes. So kind of, letting that data come in, and you would just say, show an OEE availability, quality, performance of the line chart for the past 15 minutes. And let AI, fill those, metrics out on a graph for you. And you can see we have this graph right here. Now, first thing you want to do is enable multiple lanes, so you can see all of that data at the same time. Now, enable multiple lanes, and then there's going to be periods of low OEE, and you can hover over it to compare it to like the other metrics that you have. And one of the first initial ways that we can analyze OEE with IDMP is by using AI insights, right? So maybe you have something that, let's see if I have, 30 minutes of data. Maybe I do. Yeah, there you go. So you can, change the time frame. So as you guys get more data, this will get even richer. But one of the first ways TDengine solves this problem is by using AI's insights, right? So insights based on AI. And one of the ways you can get those is by simply clicking panel insights and kind of getting it to reload. Here, if you give it a couple seconds, it should say, over the past, hours, it's demonstrated high quality and availability, but OEE and performance showed notable, drops. And then it's telling me, where it remains stable, what's the kind of volatility, what should I investigate? Like, should I investigate my machines for jams? Should I monitor for reoccurrence? And you can actually ask the chat follow-up questions. So it's not just giving you, meaningful insights and recommendations on where I should go next. It's also telling you, hey, these are some of the things that I would do, and then you can start to ask more questions on hey, what's the next step for me? Where should I go from here? But this is a powerful way to get the recommendations, and obviously they change with the amount of historical data you have. So this is 1 day's worth of historical data. And obviously you can see here there is a significant drop in OEE, and then obviously I think you guys don't have 1 day's worth of data, so I would stick to the 15 to 30 minutes range for now. But the more data that you let populate your system, the better these insights are going to be. Now, OEE and data insights kind of work hand in hand because this allows you to isolate some kind of root cause. Why was this downtime caused? What conditions affected it? What can I isolate from this data? And we use AI to bridge the gap between that. And that's really where we start. And you can even zoom in and do some more interesting things. Of course, these metrics are all the same sort of measurement, so you can overlay them on top of each other, no problem with that, right? But some metrics you're not going to have the ability to overlay, and for those you can actually add a different y-axis chart, so you can have metrics with different ranges on the same chart, and do some things like that. Now, this is one powerful way to look at it, but I would say an even better way to get even deeper insights is through analysis, right? And I actually have already built one for you guys, but let's go back to that fill line 1. Let's go to analysis. And right here, I want you to go to new analysis, and I will give you a couple minutes to kind of get to this point. And let's see if we have any questions in the chat. Seems like everything's fine, so get to this point, this new analysis point. Let's give you a couple minutes to get to there. I'm a little behind on the tutorial. I haven't finished the end of the session. Will I still be able to continue with the MQTT data tomorrow, or where I left off? Yes, this is data sources consistently on. This will be recorded as well, so you'll be able to follow along with the specific steps. So do not worry too much about that. It is totally fine to not finish. And in fact, if there are certain portions you are stuck on, we will also help you with that towards the end. But okay, so we're at the analysis portion. Here we are going to create a event for OEE. So low OEE analysis. What we want to go to is the event window, and we're going to do a really simple one, right? Let's do what the OEE is, less than 90. Sorry, that's greater than, less than 90 for 10 seconds. I think that's a good one. So you guys can generate some events right now. The workshop does say per minute, but we want to do a couple events now. And we'll, obviously, when it's greater than equal to 90, we want to close that. You do a couple things here, right? You can apply roll up on this window. You can output this to an attribute, and then you can also generate an event off of this. So a lot of really cool things. But for me, I think this is good enough. But one of the other things that I'm going to do is uh, I'm going to generate this with AI. So when my OEE drops under 90 for 10 seconds, generate an event. Okay. I think I already have this, but essentially AI should just populate all of those fields that I just showed you. So it's a really cool way for you guys to create this event really, really quickly. And make sure that it just has this generate event. And those are two ways you can make it. But once it's made, go ahead and hit save, and you should see this event running here. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to get to this point, but once the event is running, we should start to kind of we're going to take a couple minutes to kind of let those events start to generate. And there you go. I've got a couple events already ready to go. Okay, so we're taking a couple seconds here, and let's see. Once you've got a couple events sort of popping in, let's go back to the events. Yours should look something like this with all of these events starting to populate. I can go ahead and throw them on a trend chart. So add to analysis charts. There's the first one. I'll just take a couple of these events and throw them on a chart. And it looks like they're really far behind. So yours should look more close together. So pick two events that are actually reasonably close together. I want to make sure you guys are doing that. So let's add that to analysis chart. Let it load. Let me pick this one. This is not that far behind. And let's just pick three, right? Three of these, this should be good enough. So I pick three events onto the analysis chart, and now you can kind of see a couple of these coming in. Yeah, you're able to add as many as you want, and obviously I can have smaller events too. So now I've got a good amount. I've got 4 different events, all showing some kind of OEE drop here and rise. Obviously, the more data you have, the easier these drops become to see. So like here, if I added this to an analysis chart, you'll see this is like where the drop occurs. But yeah, we've got a couple here ready to go. Now here is some of the ways that we help analyze, these metrics, right? But we're gonna go over every single way that TDengine can do that after you guys get to this point. So we're gonna give you a couple minutes to add a couple of these events to the charts. Okay, so I'm going to assume everyone is at this point. Now, another cool thing that you can do is you can bring in metrics, right? So what I mean by that is you can go back to the Explore page, go to attributes, and we already have, our OEE, but I can add my availability to the analysis chart. I can add my performance and quality to that analysis chart, right? Let's add a couple of these. Let's add performance. And let's add the quality to the analysis chart. And boom, you can kind of see, all of those events with every single one of these, on there at the same time. So just like we did before, but now you're seeing events happen at the same time. And now you're starting to see some of the correlations during those events, right? You're starting to see, hey, some of these are dropping at similar times, others aren't, right? Some remain stable, some don't. You can do a couple things here. So we offer a ton of advanced analytic tools. The first is that you can, view all of these events and then view what we call the golden patch, right? So you'll see things like the minimum, the maximum, the average, the 5% profile, and then like the 95% profile. All of that is available right here. And I can kind of see that on the system. Let me zoom in a little. Another thing that I can do is enable marker line mode. So this is the deltas between two of these. So right here, I'll pick, both of these, and this is just like the difference, right? And also, incorporates time into it. So over these like 35 minutes, that this has been the difference between both of those. That's kind of what the deltas are. Now, this is super useful to maybe see, when these began and started. So like here at this drop point, what's the delta between this one and these two, and, which metrics are going up, which are going down, what is that sort of, degradation, with respect to time. That's what marker line is. Now, if you have a ton of different events, you can kind of see it gets a little complicated. So you can turn on event line mode. And what it does is it only shows you the events that you click on up here. So it tells you, hey, these are the events that you have, which ones are viewable, which ones aren't, and it'll show you exactly which event you want to see. Now I can disable that to obviously see all of the events. Now, if you wanted to do an event window within this window to further see more events, you can do that through window analysis, and you can do that with a sliding window. You can do a state window. You can do some like anomaly detection, trying to find different anomalies. I don't have my TDGPT fully set up, but you could do that. You could do a count window, and you could do a session window as well. So like if there's like a no activity interval that you want to amend, you want to find a session where it's doing that, you could do that as well. You can pick an interval sliding, what the fill type is, what the value is, and you can make it a color, right? So you can make it like every 10 seconds, which one's going under 50 or anything like that. You would control with a sliding window, and that's going to go on top of these events that you already have. So this is almost like an ad hoc type analysis. Obviously, I can run forecasts. So if you want to forecast this data, kind of predict what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and why some of this stuff is happening, you would do that. And then you can also do imputations. Now, if you have different events, so let's say you had events for availability and for performance, you can enable alignment by start time, right? And it gives you a more fair comparison of everything that is going on. And XY plots, which is a really powerful one, where I can, take correlations and find events within those correlations. So let's see. There's OEE, and then I'm going to go with the, let's pick the availability is very stable. Let's pick the performance, right? And so now you've got a little correlation over here on a scatter plot. I can actually, enable select line, pick this, and then, do an event window between that, right? So maybe I'll do 5 seconds, and now I've got events based on that. So you can get even deeper into exactly how this is happening. And now that you have so many events, window line mode makes a ton of sense here, right? So with all these events, you're going to want window line mode to turn that on and off. I encourage you guys to play around with that. But let's disable the XY plot, and obviously I can go into here, go into this event list to delete some of these windows. There's a ton of different windows here. This is where you would control which windows you want to keep, which ones you want to delete. I can obviously do correlation analysis, right? So, picking what parameters correlates and seeing correlations. So if I know a specific parameter that correlates, I can do a correlation analysis and then, see the result in the graph. And then I can even do a profile search. So if I want to, brush, what is the profile, what's the result, what like the source window color is, all of that stuff, and I can get a profile search on a brush of a graph. These are some advanced analytic features that we have just announced that can save you a ton of time and get you even deeper insights into what you're looking for. Now, one of the things that I want you guys to do is save this into fill line 1 as OEE analysis chart. Go ahead and save this. And now when I go back to the panels, I'll have this OEE analysis chart forever, right? So these are all my events. And what you can do to get even richer into the insights is actually, generate panel insights based off of this. And now AI takes your events into account as well. So not only are you getting root cause for, just the raw metrics, but now you're getting it for the events. And it tells you things like what I can investigate, how do I implement these, new real-time alerts, if there's low data quality, what my next actions are, what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, and what kind of limitations the data might have. So not only are we analyzing the data, we're giving you causality for next steps. So we take it one further. I am going to give it a second. So we're going to give you guys a couple seconds to get to this point. If you have any questions, let me know. And I can actually, adjust this chart too, right? So if I wanted to change things like the color scheme, I wanted a different palette of colors, like all of the options that you want are available here. And, some people want to see some kind of fill opacity for these. I can do that as well. Overlay those on top of events. We even have like hues and schemes that you guys can, play around with. So all of the adjustments are also available, and I can even add like a threshold if I wanted a threshold, or if I wanted to add some sampling and all of that kind of stuff. And you can actually get these as a sort of report, right? So like going out of it, if I wanted to get this chart every single day, or get that insight every single day, that is kind of some of the other things we can do. Is there anyone who's currently stuck on getting to this point? If you are totally okay, we will help you fix that. I'm going to give it another minute here just to get to this point. Obviously, when you guys have more historical data, you can, keep playing around with the range on some of these charts. Try, a ton of different features, but we want to get to this point. And for our exercise, our AI has rightfully identified performance as the stark difference for the OEE. And actually, what we can do is we can go back to this chart and throw both the OEE and performance on, that chart. And you can do things like data aggregation, right? You can run regression analysis on this. So if you wanted to, kind of see this in a regression analysis, I could do that as well. There's a lot of different options here, but the choice for what to pick is really up to you guys. So here I'm going to get rid of these windows that I have to show you again that scatter plot feature. So you guys have an idea of how to actually do it. But here let's actually disable our regression analysis. Let's enable that XY plot again, pick performance, disable that, enable the select box, and you can make the event as big as you want it, like 30 seconds, so it doesn't generate so many. Or apply this again, and maybe I want every 1 minute, right? I'm just doing seconds because I don't have that much data, but let's say I wanted every 1 minute. It may not even add a single event. It's added like 1 or 2. And you were able to use that to find some causality and correlation, and then use AI to explore, what's actionable, what's happening. So you can drill down deeper.